My last video on this channel, I built this clamp, and this figures because this is the way this usually works. Immediately after I posted the video, another idea occurred to me, another way to make this work actually even better than it works now. And that's to make a couple of changes to, first of all, to the bar. It would be to change these notches into sawtooth profiles. And also, I would need to change this block at the bottom down here to incorporate a spring that would actually hold the block here, which currently you have to kind of search for the notch right now. But the way it will work with the spring in there and the sawtooth cut is that you'll be able to just take it and push it forwards until it adjusts, and then it'll just come right back and settle into the nearest notch that it's past. So to do that, well, to make that change, I did it in my drawing, but I really need to test it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the changes on this clamp as it is. First thing I need to do, though, is cut this block out in the bottom here. And since I put this together with glue and I drove in some pins to hold it, I've got a metal cutting blade in my table saw to make the cuts, to cut this part out. Now these pins are thin and they probably wouldn't damage a standard carbide tooth saw blade, but I don't want to take the chance anyway. Okay, I've got the part cut out and it looks pretty good. Next thing I need to do is make a replacement. And instead of spruce this time, I'm going to be using hardwood. This is maple. It's just a scrap that I have. And I'm using hardwood this time because I actually have to make it a little bit smaller to accommodate that spring I was talking about. Once again, it has to be beveled just like the other one was. So I'll use the old one to actually draw out the bevel. My original concept for this was a wooden spring, but then I got to thinking that possibly a wooden spring is a bit too stiff, especially in this, close here where it has to compress in tight. It may split off here really easily because the area where it contacts this here is less than a square inch actually. The best thing to do would be to cut a separate spring from nice, clear, straight material and then glue it on there solidly, but it's still, I think it would be too stiff. So I decided to try out this piece of PVC plastic from a pipe. So it's got a little bit of a curve to it, and I think that'll actually help with the springiness. Now when I clamp it on my thumb here and I try the springiness, it really doesn't seem like it has enough. But I really have to do this. I have to put this on there to find out for sure if it works or if it doesn't. With it screwed on, it feels a lot stiffer, so I think it's going to be okay. And in the interest of getting this done quickly, I'm going to use epoxy to glue this thing back on. This sets up in about a half an hour, hard enough that I don't have to worry about it breaking, at least. I gave this about a half an hour to set, and I think it's nearly there, but I'm going to leave it until I cut the bar here into that sawtooth shape that I need it to be for the thing to slide up and over. One idea I had was to make this template here, or this pattern, I guess you could say, and then I would hold that against the thing and just use the chisel to shape it out. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially not the initial shaping. You can sand it down a little bit better after it's done to get it exact. I mean, as exact as it needs to be. The main thing is that it allows the thing to slide up and over without catching. That's all you need to do is just get rid of that, step. Well, as you can see, I quickly abandoned the little guide that I made. Cutting across the grain like that will cause too much chip out. So I switched to cutting with the grain, but then I quickly abandoned that too when I remembered that I've got a strip sander that I can do all of this on and do it in about half the time. So it's done, and I've got to put that together, and it seems to work well. And then it adjusts quickly. That spring does not have enough tension though. So I think I'm going to go back to the original idea of a wooden one. But it does work. I mean, okay, it's just to do it right here. You're going to have to actually put some pressure on there. And then if you push it forward, see, it does work like that. And it will stay locked in once it gets there. So it is a success. The idea is a success. And it does pretty much what I want it to do. It's just that spring does need a little bit more tension.